Handling Problem Behaviors by Allison Karpinski. A major problem with education today is the educators themselves. Oftentimes they spend too much time trying to pin blame on why children have problem behaviors instead of actually trying to treat them. A frequent argument educators make is, "What's wrong with kids today? What happened to the good old days?" Well, there's nothing different about kids today compared to the good old days. Educators often refer to. The difference is, instead of being locked up in institutions or denied education, all children with physical and mental disabilities have the right to a free public education required by the federal government. So it's not that kids are different, we just haven't made the effort to educate them until now. Another frequent argument educators make is, "Why can't we just suspend kids? Punishment works for me." Well, not only does suspension reinforce the problem behavior, it doesn't teach the student the more appropriate behavior. Just taking the child out of the classroom won't correct the behavior, only reinforce the idea that if they act out, they'll get to stay home from school. Teachers also often say, "I didn't sign up for this," when referring to having to teach proper behaviors. However, there's a direct relationship between social and behavioral skills and academic achievement. When behavior improves, so does academic success. It is also your job as a teacher to make sure your students are employable beyond their high school graduation. Students who consistently act out don't make for great employees. Positive behavior support is officially defined by the Office of Special Education Technical Assistance Center on Positive Behavior Interventions and Support as an application of a behaviorally based systems approach to enhance the capacity of schools, families, and communities to design effective environments that improve the link between research-validated practices and the environments in which teaching and learning occurs. In other words, children's problem behaviors are challenging to change because in their minds the behavior serves a specific purpose. For example, they act out to get attention. We can help the child adapt, however, by changing aspects of their learning environment through scientifically validated research practices. The research for positive behavior support comes from applied behavioral analysis, and its foundation is primarily of the traditional gold standard of quantitative experimental research. Since educational research is complex, however, it is flexible to individual cases. We refer to the three-tiered model when teaching children. The bottom and largest tier contains 80 to 90% of students who don't have major behavioral issues. These are students who can learn effectively in a classroom setting. The middle tier makes up 5 to 15% of students and contain the children at risk for problem behavior. These students benefit from working in specialized groups. The top tier contains 1 to 7% of students and are those with chronic or severe problem behavior. They benefit best from specialized individualized learning. We use functional behavioral assessments to help us understand why a child is engaging in challenging behavior. An FBA's 3 key components are setting events, triggers, and maintaining consequences. Setting events increases the likelihood a problem behavior could occur or make the behavior worse. An example would be assuming it's going to be a bad day when a student walks in late. Triggers are actions that provoke the problem behavior, such as a sudden change in schedule. Maintaining consequences is what happens after the problem behavior occurs. For example, does the student get more attention once they act out? When filling out a behavioral intervention plan, it is important to take the time to gather research of what the specific problem behavior is and when it occurs. Deciding on what actions to take to correct this behavior will follow this section, along with consequences if the behavior problem continues in communication with the student support team. The most common reasons students participate in challenging behavior include doing so to receive attention or reaction from peers and adults, to get something tangible, to get power or control, to meet a sensory need, to communicate feelings, wants, and needs, due to a lack of understanding, or to escape or avoid something. The bottom line of an FBA is that behavior is rarely simply behavior. Usually some basic biological or emotional need underlies the behavior that the student does not know how to express appropriately. It is our job to figure out what they are trying to communicate. Our model of intervention begins with instruction, is followed by prevention, moves to reinforcement, then finishes with undesirable consequences. Educators tend to jump to the bottom of the chart when responding to problem behaviors, but it is important to note we must attempt to instruct, inform, and prevent the behaviors first, before they even occur. In conclusion, educators are an underestimated portion of the problem, and it is important not to be in denial of this when entering the field. We need to be more aware of the responsibilities our job holds, and failure to do so or question if you are doing something wrong could lead to wasted time in treating the problem behavior.